I'm Juliette Maguire and welcome back to How to Buy a Used Car, which is exclusive to Cars.co's YouTube channel. Getworth has so kindly supplied us with this beautiful 1.2 litre TSI comfort line. So let's get into it.
Don't stall, install. From quick search to in-depth research, do it all on our updated app.
Now, back in my late teens or early 20s, which is like 50 years ago, I was a huge fan of the Polo Player. You guys will remember it if you are anywhere close to my age. But eventually that was done away with. And then the Mark IV Polo came in and it was a little bit more mature. And I thought, can I afford it? I don't know, but I eventually could. And it was the first car that I bought with my own money. So I've always kept a keen eye on the Polo because it's just always held a really great place in my heart. And so much so that I didn't have to really force him, but I convinced, ever so forcefully, my husband at the time, who was my boyfriend, to buy a Mark IV version of the Polo as well. And the one thing about Polo that has remained, and I'm so glad that it has, is it's the resale value, right? When I sold my Polo, I think I had it for 4 years, I managed to sell it for more than what I paid for it. That was astounding back then. It's astounding still now. So when I say that this is probably one of the best 5-seater hatchbacks on the market, from the pre-owned market, I'm really not kidding. We first saw the Mark V Polo launched at the Geneva International Motor Show in 2009. And then we saw it come here in 2010, where it was on sale until 2017. And 200,000 units found homes. It is built locally here in Kariega, which is really pretty cool because it's exported to all over the world. And famously, in 2010, this model won World Car of the Year and European Car of the Year. And more interestingly, you might not know this, but this car is basically still on sale, just now as the Polo Vivo, and still built at Kariega. At the time of the launch, 6 variants were available. You had a 1.4 Trendline and Comfort Line, a 1.6 Comfort Line and Trendline, and then you also had a 1.6 TDI Comfort Line. All models ship standard with a 5-speed manual transmission, but the 1.6 Comfort Line in petrol guise also came with an optional 6-speed Tiptronic transmission. Now, by the end of 2012, a new diesel model was added to the lineup in the form of a 1.2 litre TDI Blue Motion. It was a 3-cylinder turbo diesel that put out a claimed fuel consumption of just 3.4 litres per 100 Ks. And VW named this, obviously the most fuel-efficient car in the world. Well, no, the most fuel-efficient 5-seater hatchback in the world. And I don't think that they were wrong. In mid-2014, the Mark V Polo had a facelift and there was some subtle design changes. Inside, we saw a new touchscreen and there was actually a new derivative added called the Highline. But the most important change of that facelift was the fact that they did away with all the naturally aspirated engines in favor of the 1.2 litre TSI in 2 states of tune. So you had 66 kilowatts and 160 newton meters, or you had 81 kilowatts and 175 newton meters. Now, the lower engines still stuck with a 5-speed manual, but the higher engines went to a 6-speed manual. And if you got the Highline, you got a 7-speed DSG. The Polo is popular for good reason. It's got a lot of strengths, but here are 4 of my top strengths that the Polo has. Number 1 is comfort and refinement. There's a reason that this was dubbed the baby Golf. I mean, it is really quite astounding. This is a 2017 model, and it looks like it could be brand new. I mean, that's obviously owed to the person who maybe owned this car. But it is also quite clear that the quality of these products are really, really good. It's always been a car that has felt really solidly built, and everything from the dashboard to the gear knobs to everything is sturdy and sort of German engineered, which is what you want, especially when you're looking in the pre-owned market. Number 2, fuel economy. Now, obviously the naturally aspirated engines weren't exactly known for their efficiency, but after the facelift happened, and especially the diesel motors, if you look at the 1.2-litre TDI Blue Motion, that was said to theoretically get about 1,200 k's per 45-litre tank. That's quite incredible. And then the 1.2-litre TSI engines, which is in this car, well, those were sipping around 5 litres per 100 k's. And when you consider in this day and age where we're still trying to seek cars with such low fuel consumption, these are still knocking it out the park. Number 3, safety equipment. Now, soon after the Polo launched, it was actually awarded a 5-star rating at Euro NCAP. And that was mostly with adult and child occupancy. It didn't do that great with pedestrians, but as long as you were in the car, you were pretty much safe. And it shipped standard with ABS, with EBD, with child ISOFIX anchorage points. It had side and dual front airbags. The only issue was pre-facelift, only the 1.6 TDI had stability control programming. But after the facelift, thankfully, standard across the range, you got stability control, which is huge, and why we mention down the line in this video what are the models you should be looking at. Number 4, parts availability. Now, because of the extensive VW network and the bazillion Polos that are already on the market, parts are actually really easy to source, and so you won't have any problem servicing your car if you are in need of any parts, especially considering that you can now also opt for a sort of equivalent part and not necessarily just an only VW approved. Okay, I've spoken about the strengths, but when buying a pre-owned car, obviously there are a few things to look out for. And as a owner of a previous Polo, I have 4 that I think you should look out for. One is a patchy service history. Now, when VW launched the Polo, quite controversially, they launched it with an optional service plan, which, when you consider that the rivals had a standard service plan, wasn't quite wise. But thankfully, with the facelift, you then got a 3-year, 45,000 kilometer service plan as standard. However, you need to make sure that your service history of the car that you're looking at really has been well maintained. And if you aren't sure, or if anything gives you a bit of a no-no feeling, walk away, because there are so many on the market that are good. You don't have to accept anything that is substandard. Number 2, timing belt versus chain. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert here on this section of the engine, but at the end of this block, if you look under the bonnet, you'll see that there's a plastic clip cover here. That means this car has a timing belt. Now, VW will have you believe that it is a lifetime belt and so it doesn't need to be replaced. However, it does actually need to be maintained at least. You need to keep checking it. But you also need to check whether your car has a chain or a belt. It comes down to, if you have a belt, you're going to have to get it checked out once in a while. If you have a chain, well, you don't have much to worry about. Number 3, more expensive to repair. Now, with the introduction of the 1.2-litre TSI, multiple parts were upgraded to make it more reliable, which according to our research, it actually is. But that also means that the parts became more expensive. I will give you a list of those prices later on in the video, but just bear in mind that the later models might be a little bit more expensive to service. Number 4, clogged DPF. Now, DPF is diesel particulate filter. Now, obviously, it's not going to be on this car because this is a petrol version, but it could be on something like the 1.6 TDI. And you just need to look at the instrument cluster for those warning lights, and it could be as easy as just taking the car on an open road with high revs for like 15 minutes. But if it is a particularly saturated filter, you are going to experience some rather expensive problems. But it's also worth remembering that the E189 engines were actually at the center of Dieselgate. Although in South Africa, I don't think that's much to worry about. No action was taken because according to VW, all the diesel models were actually compliant to local standards. So where in the range should you be looking? Well, we say the facelifted models. If anything, they've got a little bit more spec, they're a little bit more frugal, and of course, they've got stability control. And then engine-wise, the 1.2 litre TSI is the sweet spot. Not only has it got a little bit more oomph, but it is still frugal. And it's also probably the most common engine, so you're certainly going to find one. But you can also look at something like the 1 litre TSI Blue Motion and the 1 litre TSI R-Line. Now, the Comfort line spec is absolutely fine. I think you get more than enough in it, but I would look at the Highline as well if your budget extends to that. But also look out for the optional extras that someone might have put onto the car, like the panoramic sunroof and the climate control and rear and front parking sensors, and of course a reversing camera. And if you want something a little bit different, oh my goodness, look at the Cross Polo. That is one of my favorite models. And because we are awesome at Cars.co.za, we have broken down the parts pricing for you, so you can pause the video now for that. But just out of interest's sake, do you know that you can buy the whole service parts that you need off of Takelot for like 1,500 Rand? It's astounding. But pause that video now. And if you're me, this is what it will cost you to insure a Polo. Despite an abundance of stock, there is a very high demand for the Polo. So that means that prices are a little bit higher than, say, the equivalent Fiesta or Clio. But if you find yourself a well-maintained, low-mileage Polo, I don't know if you can find yourself a better 5-seater hatchback on the pre-owned market.
Cars.co.za. Not only is Cars.co.za the best place to find your dream car, but it's also the easiest place to sell your current car. Check out the sell car section on our main website. Simply list your car's details and all of our dealers will take bids on your car. You just choose the highest price. Boom, your car's gone. On to your next one. Right, thanks very much for watching the video. Okay, I think I'm done. Yeah, I'm finished now.